Commissioner Brazen.
Second.
Another? Oh, Commissioner Akers? Akers, yes, thank you. As well as Commissioner Akers.
Second again.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Tonight we have on our agenda just one item of action, a public hearing for the consideration of a special land use application for 1642. And I will note that Commissioner Akers just walked in at 6:31. Sorry, we got started. Roll.
Oh, it's my fault.
Take your time. 1642 East Webster. Are there any comments or recommendations on the agenda this evening?
I would move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
That's a lot of support. Baker moves and
Give it to Pollica.
No.
I think Pollica was loudest, so
Yeah.
Pollica supports. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And we have approval of minutes from September 7th, 2022, Planning Commission meeting. Are there any comments or edits as proposed?
Move that we approve the minutes from September 7th, 2022, Planning Commission meeting.
Support.
There's a motion by Baker and support by Showalter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, next on our agenda, we have a call to audience. This is a time where anyone can come up to speak on the agenda items that are not on the, anything that is not on the agenda, which is the one special land use application for 1642. I don't see anyone coming to the podium, so we will move on to our public hearing. And again, it's consideration of the special land use application for 1642 East Webster, and we will have our senior planner, Carl Bryce, introduce the project or application.
Good evening, commissioners. Okay, so this is the only item. We just have the special land use for 1642 East Webster. This is located on the southwest corner of Webster and West End. So to get your bearings, this is in the southeast corner of the city. Just a few more streets to the south is 8 Mile. So the house is it's located on the side of West End. This is the boundary between Ferndale and Hazel Park. So if you look at the map, you can see the houses on the other side of West End are actually in Hazel Park. This is deep within a neighborhood, or really a whole region of the city that's zoned R1 single family residential. The houses in Hazel Park that are nearby are zoned RA3 single family residential, and of their single family zonings, it is the most dense, so they have the smallest lot sizes, square footages, things like that. So I think they do have some density on that side of the street. The applicant is proposing a special land use approval to construct this is a quote from our ordinance, construct a residential apartment, one above garage and accessory to single family dwelling. So doing this does require a special land use. This is essentially a second floor ADU, that's an accessory dwelling unit. You know, these have become quite popular in recent years, and I think it's a good way to increase density in the city. It's something that we've been looking at in the master plan, which was recently approved by City Council. However, to my knowledge, I don't think many have gone through the process to seek this kind of approval. So this is a little bit noteworthy for us. I think it's a good thing. I think we can get into perhaps later some of the difficulties with why we've not had much success with our ADUs. I think, you know, being a special land use is certainly a part of it. But in any event, the applicant is here. They're seeking that. I would like to note, generally, when we have a special land use, we also have a site plan that goes hand in hand with it. So our city, we treat all single family or duplexes, I think even up to 3 units. If it's residential, single family, the building department handles that administratively. So we talk with our city attorney because this is kind of new ground for us, and he noted that that still holds true. So tonight, all we are doing is seeking the special land use recommendation, and the building department will handle everything with the site plan. Of course, they do go through all engineering and fire review requirements and building code requirements as well. And as a reminder to you all, as well as the public, we make a recommendation here for the city council for that special land use. Then the applicant will return at an upcoming city council meeting. There'll be another public hearing, and city council will make the final decision.
Just for reference, do we then notice that to the residents again at the city council public hearing?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And we did notice, it wasn't just the Ferndale side, we did notice the Hazel Park side. I think that's really all I have on this matter. So we can either bring the applicant up, or if you want to hold a public hearing, I don't recall what we normally do first.
I think we hear from the applicant. So anything you have to add to the presentation, and then we'll open it up to the public hearing, and then we'll have the open it up to questions and comments from the commission.
And through the chair, if I could, I neglected to show this. Just wanted to go through briefly again. I mean, we're not reviewing the site plan here tonight, but just as a frame of reference, here's a plot plan of what we're looking at, looking north with West End. So the existing garage that's to be demolished is also down here. It's at the southern end of the site with access directly to West End. So they're proposing to demolish that, replace that, a new garage. So it's definitely residential in character. You can see the front elevation, you can see the garage door. So this would be if you were standing on West End and looking west directly at the structure, what it would look like. Really, the biggest challenge, I think, for the applicant, I guess I can let them get into this, is the height, trying to fit within our accessory structure ordinance. But this is the proposed drawing for the building. So I guess at this time we can bring up Kevin.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Kevin Gitter. I'm one of the partners of 42 Holdings, the applicant.
And I'm Brian, one of the other partners.
Welcome. Thank you.
So just to start off with a little background, both of us live in Ferndale. Our office is in Ferndale. We started our business in Ferndale. We're primarily home builders. We build 25 to 30 homes a year. Probably build 10 houses in the city of Ferndale. And so, you know, we love Ferndale and we love building here, and we'd like to continue doing that. So just some background information there. We came up with the idea for the ADU, as we call it. We've been to a few seminars just about density and affordable housing and other things like that, and innovative ways to do that. And so in that, we found that Ferndale's ordinances have this provision for that, and so we've decided to pursue it here today. Do you have anything to?
No, Kevin and I, we started our company here. You know, we started with nothing. We ended up both taking residences here. And you know, one thing that we always talked about, like, it would be cool to figure out something to do with some sort of affordable housing. And I'm sure you guys are aware these past couple of years, housing has become anything but affordable. It's extremely expensive to build. I mean, going through COVID and everything, we saw the brunt of that. I recall we built one house in Ferndale. I think our lumber package was 20-something thousand, and then during COVID, same house, it was 50. So I mean, things have become very expensive, and we like to travel, me and him. So we've been all over, and this, like, especially in Europe and Asia, like, this small living was like very intriguing, that you can make very efficient spaces in a small footprint. And that is something that, you know, we're trying to do here. And so we're pretty excited about it. this is one idea we have. We have a bunch of ideas floating up with different floor plans and stuff, so. I guess any questions or?
We also have multiple properties in the city that would be suitable for this, you know, this is kind of the tester run, so I think for all of us.
Yeah.
And I didn't say it before, but thank you all for being here. I know we're the only thing on the agenda tonight, so we appreciate you taking the time. I know you're all busy people.
Thank you. We appreciate you bringing it here. So at this time, we can open it up to, open up the public hearing to see if we have any comments from the public, and then we will, after we close the public hearing, we might have some questions for you. So, thank you. So with that, I will open the public hearing for the special land use application for 1642 East Webster at 641. And so if anyone from the public would like to comment on this item, you can come up now. I do not see anyone. All right, well, with that, I will close the public hearing at 6:42. And open it up to our commission for any questions or comments. First, I wanted to just mention, so again, thank you for bringing this. As Kyle said, we have not seen an ADU since I've been on the commission. I'm not sure. It's shaking her head. Okay. So this is kind of a test case for us, and it's something that we have talked quite a bit about in terms of, especially with the housing crisis of late, of how to provide some efficient, affordable units that could help the residents, especially those who want to stay in place and might need more space or might need a second source of income. So this is really great to see this here, but I don't want to conflate our overall kind of agenda of the consideration of the special land use for this application with then ADUs in general. But I think we can have a conversation more generally after we look at the business of this specific special land use. They've already, spent plenty of time and resources in coming to us tonight with this matter. So I want to look at the special land use and the considerations we need to for the zoning ordinance. And as Kyle said, the site plan will be reviewed by the city staff, so we don't need a site plan approval.
Through the chair, just really quick, one administrative item that I just want confirmation of is on the application that was submitted. I know in the presentation with us was an affordable housing unit. On the application that was submitted, the proposed use number 3, you checked off office, and I just want to make sure on the record that is indeed going to be used as affordable housing. Okay, so then please have that corrected for paperwork process.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Through the chair, I'd be ready to make a motion if there are any questions on the special.
I do, but maybe these aren't the right questions, so please, if I'm not asking appropriate questions, let me know. I am curious to know what the height of the current building is. I can't seem to find that information in the packet.
So the ordinance reads that the midpoint of the roof has to be at 16 foot. You can actually kind of see it. They show that dimensioning in the bottom right corner of that sheet. And so I believe we're compliant with the ordinance and that the midpoint of the roof is at 16 feet. I think if you looked at the top end of it.
The highest point.
Yeah, the highest point goes above that probably by 2 feet.
Okay, that actually wasn't my question. My question was the existing building, what's the...
The existing.
Yeah.
The existing
I'm
garage.
curious to know what the difference is going to be, between what exists and what you're building to understand the impact that it's going to have on the surrounding.
Okay, I understand. You're talking about the existing garage.
Yes.
That's there right now. I would venture to say that it's probably 12 to 14 feet tall.
Okay, so you're looking
I
at,
can't say exactly, I don't know offhand, but
what's the highest point on that?
on that is 17 to 18 feet.
18 feet, because I thought I saw it was 17 something, okay. And is the highest point facing the south or the north?
The south.
Okay, so the neighbor to the south is going to have the biggest view of that wall.
That would be accurate.
Basically. And then the existing concrete, are you utilizing the existing concrete, or are you expanding that footprint of the current garage?
We're actually, one, it's not structurally sufficient to handle living space on it, and then the second is it needs to be moved in from the lot line because of overhead power lines.
Okay, so it'll actually be further
We're moving
away
it
from,
closer to our dwell. what
okay,
would
so it'll
our
be further
dwelling.
away from the fence, the
Yep.
boundary line, okay. Please.
And to build upon your point, directly south of this property, it looks to be like there's just a garage and then a backyard on the other side. So there's not a house that's like looking right into this.
Understand, yeah, yeah. But it is, I also don't want it to be a looming structure, you know, for someone that, you know, lives around the property. Okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would make a motion then, in the matter of 1642 East Webster Street, that after a public hearing was held and set for this date and place, that the Planning Commission recommends to the City Council approval of the special land use based on plans dated August 25th, 2022, with findings as listed in the packet, and the correction as requested by Commissioner Hagfors to the use classification.
Correct. Yep. And second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Baker and a second by Commissioner Hackforce. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I guess I have another question. So we're approving the special land use. Does that,
We are recommending to the city council, who will make a final decision.
oh, so I still have to, oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought we were making the decision. Okay, so it goes back to me and the council, okay.
Where there will be a second public hearing.
Okay. Oh, so I have an opportunity to change my vote.
You can vote now, and you can vote at the city council.
Okay, that's fine, okay. Thank you for humoring me.
Any other comment on the motion? Hearing none, Kyle, can I have a roll call?
Yeah, Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Showalter,
Yes.
Commissioner Azar,
Yes.
Commissioner Akers,
Yes.
Councilman Polika,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagfors,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoskew,
Yes.
and Chair Foster.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your business in the city. And we'll see you back at the city council.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to administrative items, and if we want to have a further conversation of ADUs, I would suggest, I'm not sure if Kyle want to bring it up, or we can bring it up in commission items.
Yeah, I suppose I could bring it up right now. Yeah, so they were sort of a, like a test case to see, what it could look like. Because, I've had a lot of conversations just since I've been here in January. People who call and they want an ADU, I explain, hey, this is how it works. The special land use, it adds time for them. So it's not ideal. To me, I think the bigger issue is some of the dimensional requirements, mostly that height. Because a lot of people, if they try to fit a garage with the foot for the floor and then living space, keeping that all within 16 feet, I think has been pretty difficult for the average person. And I think that's a big reason of why we haven't seen any. So in the spirit of the master plan and trying to look at this and increase density, I think we're going to try to come up with some solutions and some changes to the zoning ordinance, just trying to make it easier. So, I mean, at this time, I don't know if anybody has any suggestions. I know Roger and I have been mulling some things over as we move forward, but I'm just looking for any kind of commissioner input at this time.
Chair Foster shared with me that the staff is looking at samples or examples from other communities, which I think is a great idea. Just, what is what's working, maybe what didn't work. As a community had to scale back on something because it was too tall or too close or something, just so we don't repeat the same mistakes. A lot of sense to me.
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to actually create two requirements based on the zoning. So an R2 and R3 might have, a lot for hire, where an R1 might just be what we have today. That would encourage more of the density and where we want density.
I mean, do you think it would be favorable to remove the special land use provision on this? Or is that something that the city is always going to want final oversight on?
So, I had further discussion on dimensional variances, or dimensional requirements rather. But yeah, I think the special land use is probably an easier kind of topic that we can kind of do like a straw poll, because I agree that I think it's a huge impediment to people wanting to move forward with ADUs, and especially coming off of the master land use update where we directly talked about additional units and the sort of development as a goal into creating more density and opportunities for affordable housing and just increased housing options. I personally don't think it should be a special land use.
I would agree.
I would agree, but I also don't want it to become too easy where it becomes something that a weekend warrior tries to tackle. Would think it needs to be something that needs to be more well thought out
Yeah, I
as
agree.
well.
Yeah.
So what aspects of it would need to be thought out?
Well, there's a few things. There's the housing above garages, I think is great, and I think it's a great way to increase this. I worry a little bit about having, if this really takes off in the community and there's a bunch of ADUs, or is ADU or
ADU.
Okay, ADUs. I worry about a bunch of ADA inaccessible places where someone who has mobility issues would not be able to use a bunch of the housing stock just because they all are upstairs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was something that we talked about. I mean, this kind of sort of defeats the purpose of aging in place if everybody cannot use the stairs to get up.
So I think that's like potentially two different issues. Well, so you were getting away from, whether or not it's a special land use, but some of the other considerations we want to consider. And so whether or not it's above a garage, that's kind of a different issue, correct?
Well, I mean, it's one thing if you build on, you should always be everyone gets permits and everything like that but when you start to build a space for someone else to live and another resident to live, I think safety because you're right above a ultra combustible area where gasoline is always stored. There's certain rating requirements that need to be met. There's you have someone that's living right above a fire hazard essentially.
But wouldn't the building code and the building department really be
They would, but
regulating some of these issues?
they would. The thing I'm a little bit worried about is if people are being dissuaded by there being a special land use, then are these people who don't want to put in the full effort?
So they would still require a building permit, and the building department would still need to review plans and the site and the construction. So I guess I just really want to dig down into the concerns, just to make sure that we are properly accounting for it.
Well, things like they wouldn't be they wouldn't be requiring any professional services for a lot of this. I'm not 100% sure what permitting process would be required, but I know that they probably wouldn't need stamped and sealed drawings. I don't think, but maybe I'm incorrect.
Are we saying eliminate the special land use, which means that they don't have to go to city council for planning commission, or are we saying eliminate the step for planning commission, but still goes to city council?
So if we're talking about eliminating the special land use, then it would not come to the planning commission nor the city
So
council.
then it would be strictly the building department that would be
Correct.
approving and going through all.
So such as tonight, we didn't review the site plans, that's because the building department is in charge of the single family, which is what this would fall under. And so I don't know what the,
Well, it's still kind of a half, yeah, and my concern is a half-realized concern. I feel like it needs to be well thought out, and
Yeah,
I
of
don't
course.
want it to be something that people slap together, I mean,
I think understanding the permitting process and the review that it goes through the building is certainly something that city will want to review as we go through this. And something that we should be kind of concerned about in terms of what will, be coming out of the whole process. But probably something that we'll have to get city staff to look into.
but I also don't want to see these come up, I don't want this to be, I don't think it necessarily needs to be a planning commission item either. It's,
Right, is a special land use the way to address your concerns? I think it's a question. I think
Yeah,
your concerns are
it's
valid,
not.
but the special land use seems like an odd way to.
well, it's not, and I don't think it belongs in special land use, but the thing the comment of, I think a lot of people haven't been doing this because it will require a little bit of effort on their part. That's the part that kind of worries me, like, do we really want to be encouraging this from the people who don't want to put in a little bit of effort?
I think the lot size, as someone who just built a garage in Ferndale, the lot sizes and the build-to lines in the city is incredibly challenging. We had talked about putting an efficiency above, and I'm just speaking from personal experience, but just to get to build the garage back on the footings that were already there was just like the stars aligned and like God swooped down and like said, let it be. And then it happened.
But that's the only way.
Right. And I really wanted that garage. So if the question is, was my heart in it? My heart was deeply invested in that garage. It took an act of God for sure.
And I heard city staff say that there are significant dimensional barriers to getting this done, not so much
Yes.
regulatory.
Well, and I would say that the special land use is very, to come in front of the planning commission and also city council and have a public hearing, that's more so what I see as the extra effort that even if I was, I know the planning commission, I've been on the plan, I am able to, if I were to do, and if I really wanted it, of course I would probably go through the process, but there's some point where it's not gonna be.
The juice worth the squeeze.
Exactly. That's what
Yeah, I see your point, yeah, and I don't, and and you're also putting a lot of money in terms of getting drawings and stuff, putting that forward in hopes that the commissions agree with you, and that's a lot of investment for something that's not a for sure thing, for someone who's a homeowner, which doesn't necessarily have a large offer behind
And an
it.
investment that will only get you so much. Just by the sheer size and the ceiling heights and that unit can only get so much rent, no matter how the market is. And so,
And with the market as it is, we have not seen a single one of these, except for 2 builders who are completely dedicated to building in Ferndale and know how to get buildings built.
Yeah, and
Right.
new construction. The one on
Oh,
Lewiston East. Remember they did the front building, back building?
yeah, good point.
But it was
So-
in the context of a bigger.
Oh, yeah, Breckenridge.
Breckenridge, oh yes, yeah, but that was all brand new construction.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could see it more being in terms of the effort of being like, oh, it would be cool to have an apartment above my garage, and then you do a little bit of work, you realize how much more you need to do, and then you don't even get to the point where you need to know that you need the special land use, because just getting all of that
Exactly.
is, I see that first step not being, oh, I need to take it to the planning commission, but being, this is a lot more effort than I thought it was going to be.
Utilities to your outlot. that
Or
is-
needing this someone to design it and,
Or having to reposition on your property because it's too close to the lot line. I mean,
Which is gonna be every property because it's,
Yeah.
Right,
all
so
of our
I
lots
do
are
want to
42.
talk about dimensional variances, but I just wanted to get everyone else's opinion on the special land use, to make sure that we were.
The only other thing I have with special land use, and maybe, actually it might be separate, but I think it's related to the special land use, is that we're looking at this as an accessory to a garage. It's like an accessory to an accessory. And I'm wondering why we even need to require a garage.
Yeah, I think that's a separate
Is that
question,
separate?
I have that down as a question too.
All right, then I stop.
as
Yeah, but
in
that's
why,
good, like,
why we need to have it be a garage and a unit versus just a unit?
it has to be above a garage per hour.
So is it only an accessory dwelling unit because it's above a garage?
My question.
Oh.
Like, I would
I
say
was
it's
thinking it was accessory.
Primary use,
Oh,
because it's tied to residential use.
Oh, see, I
But
thought-
the way it's kind of written is it has to be accessory to a garage.
so accessory is attachment, it has to be attached to a current structure,
As I
so it
understand
wouldn't
our
be
No, it could
accessory
be a
if it was
free
a second?
forming, I
And the
think.
master plan showed a graphic of a
Right.
freestanding
Okay,
structure without anything by it. It was just in the backyard kind of.
Okay.
okay,
Do we
Yeah.
allow that?
that's my understanding.
Master plan and zoning are two different things, so let's make sure we're,
That may have been something that gets all.
I thought currently it had to be accessory to a garage.
I think it
I'm
ha-
not-
As I understand it, the accessory just means it's part of the, like, accessory structure ordinance. So it's like, it's part of the garage, it's accessory to the primary house. So you would have to have like a primary residence on the site. It just has to be above a garage. I don't think it's accessory to the garage, I think it's accessory to the residence on the site.
Is there a limit to how many ADUs you can put on a
Have to have a
You
garage.
can only have one
Yeah,
accessory
yeah.
building.
According to the language right now, it specifically says one above garage.
Wait a minute, I thought you
Of a
could
garage.
have.
Yes.
Gotta be garage.
As of right now, yeah. I mean, that's why they designed it the way they did.
Why dimensionally we get restricted, I see.
okay, sorry, I just want to continue our little straw poll here, so.
Yeah, that was kind of my question, is are we reviewing it as accessory to a garage? And if so, why? Why can't it just be freestanding that it addresses accessibility issues, it, points to, in particular places in the city, cars are not a primary need, and certainly will be in the future, so.
Well, and
So, but real quick, Commissioner Azar, do you think that the special land use should be a requirement of an ADU, regardless of what it's accessory to?
Okay,
or-
sorry, that's my fault. No.
Okay. Acres.
I would agree.
Palka, I don't want to put you on the spot as the last person standing, but what's your
Am I the
opinion?
last person? Because I thought, did you really take a poll of everybody else?
They all just,
Yes.
yeah, stated in kind that they did not think that the special land use was required.
I don't want to make it
And you don't have
difficult,
to
but.
have an opinion either, I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily.
Well, I'm not, I mean, if we're going with the way that the requirements are today, I would say no. I think we need to retune, fine tune them. And that's where I would say yes.
Okay. So that's good to know. So I'm pulling up, so I think that, my understanding was that it does need to be with a garage, and then it's accessory, and then there could only be the one unit, but because it does actually say in the classification, one above the garage.
So in the terms of it being above a garage, the only thing that I could see about that being a benefit is it's ensuring that you don't have a house where it has no driveway, it's a narrow lot, so that already you have cars parking on the street, and then they build an accessory dwelling unit in their backyard that adds additional vehicles, so then you're already adding a more parking density that can't be stayed on the lot. So like, it's kind of ensuring that at least if you're going to build a unit, there's at least either for the residents who live in the main house or the residents who live in an accessory dwelling unit, there's somewhere for that vehicle to go. As opposed to if they are already like filled out on their lot and then they keep adding, more residents to an already tight space. And because like I could see it like if we're trying to base it off of density and saying if you're an R2, R3, a lot of those areas are, you have multiple houses that don't have driveways, so you have the parking issue, and then we're saying, you don't need a garage, just put accessory dwelling unit in your backyard, then we're making it even more complicated.
Sorry, I just noted something.
Yeah.
So I pulled up the schedule of uses for residential districts. And so in R1, what is permitted is the residential apartment, one above garage, and accessory to single-family dwelling as a special land use. But also permitted is single-family detached dwellings, which is obviously our single-family detached is
Yeah.
permitted. It doesn't necessarily limit it to one dwelling. I don't think,
I think
unless
your-
it's somewhere else that it states.
I think your restriction is gonna be that they have to be 10 feet apart from each other, and based on the size of our lots, there's no way you can get 3 structures that are gonna be 10 feet apart from each other.
Not in a lot of parts.
On our lots,
What's-
yeah.
what's
Well, like
required?
the accessory building always has to be 10 feet away from,
Primary building?
But what if I build a duplex? That's my.
Well, that would be attached.
yeah, that's not an accessory.
That'd be a multifamily
What if
rather than a single-family dwelling.
there are some really
I was thinking the same thing.
long, deep lots in Ferndale?
Exactly.
where
Yeah, if, I know which one you're
That's
talking
right.
about.
Certain
On
sections
Lewiston,
have that
off
problem,
of
other
those,
sections.
but that's the only way because they failed to put a street in between those. There was originally supposed to be a street that ran between
I'm just
those.
thinking, how can this be abused? If you,
Yeah.
if you were trying to take this ordinance and go against the intent of the ordinance, how could this
Right.
be abused? And like building little monopoly houses
There's
down one of those long,
There's maximum lot coverages. I mean, we have massing requirements that I don't think allows anyone to abuse the intent of the district with our schedule of regulations. In my opinion. I mean, and, you know, in commercial, we don't often see those maximum lot coverages. We don't have them for buildings, but in residential districts, we do. So that does help, you know, prevent just having
yeah, I'm just thinking.
massive structures.
Like around my neighborhood, there are some really, really deep properties.
Yeah, you're talking about
the
between
Dales.
Lewiston and, not Lewiston, between
Prairie,
St. Louis and
prairie.
the Prairie, yeah. And again, that, because there was supposed to be a street. If you look at the old maps of the city, originally there was supposed to be a street, and it never was built.
And that'd be great if there was a street that could allow for higher density, but, right, like, I'm just trying to think of, are we, by not limiting the amount of accessory structures on the spot, could we be making an ad hoc or district?
Well, if someone had a blank one of those lots, like demoed the existing house, followed all of the spacing requirements and followed the coverage requirements,
There's also.
would that be that bad?
But
You
I
know,
mean-
they
Density
put 3
requirements.
single,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, what's the difference if there was a street there, then there would be more units?
Well, but you're also looking at what the zone, if we're gonna look at what it's zoned, you know, if those are zoned R1, well, then you're limited to what you could actually put, the number of
Right.
accessory dwellings.
Through the chair, I would just like to note, one accessory building shall be permitted per lot unless the lot is
Oh, sorry.
of such dimension that a second structure can be built at least 25 feet away from any other building or structure located on the same lot, and a minimum of 5 feet from any property line or edge of an easement.
Thanks for finding that. Where was it?
That is under the accessory structures,
Oh, okay.
accessory building structures and
Could only
uses.
apply to those lots between.
Right, like theoretically, still those St. Louis ones could get it. Yeah, I think my parents on West Maplehurst could theoretically squeeze like another shed in their
Yeah.
backyard, but not really a
That example
house.
on West Drayton where they built that really large garage. They could probably still get another accessory building or two on that property because there are some.
Yeah, the one on, Maplehurst, between Maplehurst and Drayton also is,
Yeah, exactly.
my parents could probably fit another unit there. But even then, I mean, if they have the space and can follow all of the
Well,
requirements, I mean, it's,
It's pretty much a bungalow court, which is a housing stock that, you know, is very prevalent in a lot of urban areas. We don't have it around here, but I would make the argument, I mean, we kind of have a bungalow court on Marshall with those townhouses. I think they're fantastic. I'd love to see more of those like that.
Oh, yeah, the ones that go
Yeah,
right at
just like, I mean,
Allen.
just-
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I was thinking, was like, if they'd have to have 25 feet between them if they were to be separate units, but I don't
it's a housing
necessarily
stock
see
that exists.
an
It's,
issue.
I mean, you can tell by the resale of those townhouses. I mean, those still great townhouses, but they hit a threshold, and it's like you can only get so much for those properties. So it's the same thing if you have freestanding accessory dwelling units, that the rent's only going to get so much because some people insist on having a yard, some people insist on having private garage, stuff like that. So.
And that's, 25 feet is more than what's between my house and my neighbor's house.
I have a driveway between me and my neighbors, either side, 25 feet in someone else's backyard would be great. But, yeah,
So,
it would change the character of the neighborhood for sure, but I don't think it's going against what we were talking about in terms of increasing density and things with the master plan, especially if all of the regulations are followed that we do have in place. And to your point about building codes, I don't know what's required, but I would assume that if you're going to be building a new structure or that significant of an increase, that it would need to at least have, you know, the loads and everything verified before they go through. You know, it's not just retiling a bathroom, but that would be making sure that the building codes can keep up with that for what's going over garage would address that concern more so than the special land use.
And but like let's say that we had a site that's decided, an area that had one of those deep lots that they decided they could fit feasibly 3 of those units in. And that's great, but do you want to give the neighbors some kind of recourse to say, hey, I live next door to this person and they're turning this into, they're really changing the character of my investment?
well, so actually what we're saying is that currently, someone could do that. They could, with our current ordinance, we allow for multiple single-family buildings, if they have the dimensional requirements, and
Wouldn't they have to come in for, get a special land use? No, they wouldn't?
only if it's an accessory ADU. So if it's above a garage, yes, but if it's just a separate building, no.
Okay.
Apparently.
Fair enough, okay, then, I guess.
I think we're all realizing that, so. And I just, actually, so the units per acre for R1 is 12 units per acre versus 15 for R2, 35 for R3. And we have, but then we have a maximum building lot coverage of 35 in R1, which is the same in R2. And then some other, dimensional variances. Then we have the ones that, for an accessory structure, that Kyle just read. So there certainly are things that they would have to follow that would restrict the number of units. But technically, in keeping with how our schedule of regulation sits for the units per acre, they could actually fit like 5 units on one of those lots, without the other dimensional requirements. So that's what generally we're looking at for our, density in our R1, per how the zoning ordinance is written.
And also, are we jumping through hoops to solve a problem that we don't need to
Well,
solve?
Like, no one is trying.
Yeah, but I think,
That's the
So,
problem.
Right.
and they're not.
but I think this is good to know, that what our ordinance kind of allows for additional structures, but then what we might want to do in terms of changing our language for like accessory dwelling units, because if someone does want, if you did want a dwelling unit above your garage because you were putting a new garage, what should we be looking at then to make it a little bit more user-friendly, so it's actually feasible to, like, within the height variance requirements and that sort of thing. So that's probably more important than how many single-family units can go on a lot, but.
Yeah, through the chair. I mean, at this point, really, we're just looking for options, and this is very helpful. I think I'm gonna, work with Roger and Christine and try to figure out maybe some different options that we can bring forward. Because there's a lot of practical difficulties out there, and I mean things that we haven't even touched on really, like utilities, like getting water and sewer to these places. Like the one that we had tonight, it's right on West End. So for them, it's pretty simple. But if you're in the middle of a block and it's way in your backyard, it's going to be tricky. So we've already engaged DPW to see what our options are, if they can connect to the house, if they have to do a new line. So we're looking at that, and we'll work with the building department and, you know, CED and other staff and try to bring some options forward.
Thank you. When you talk to the building department, I'd be curious to know what the requirements are for if you have an accessory dwelling structure. So for instance, if you're putting in a garage with a unit, a residential unit, either attached or above, just in connection with the dwelling or the accessory structure, versus if they're, it's not like a whole house or a single-family dwelling unit.
Yeah, I can't find it. I suspect there's something in our ordinance that just says you can have one primary residence on a lot, and that's it. I think
Okay,
it might
and
say that
if you
somewhere.
can find that, that'd be good to know too.
Yeah.
But also, but if there is a difference in how the building department is reviewing plans for those two different types of applications. Interesting. For an ADU. We're reviewing this one. Any other comment or direction for the city when looking at this?
I have a question through the chair, and it might just be going down the wrong route, but I don't know enough about how would short-term use, would that be calculated with the block counting for short-term rental? And then if not, are there rental licensing items that might come up if you're operating it? You know, you have your own home residence, but would you be a renter and, I'm sorry, would you be a landlord and would you need to license that structure for any reason?
It's a great question. We do have a short-term rental ordinance. I can't recall if it's 5% or maybe it's 8% on a block, something like that.
Restricted units?
Yeah, those can
Or
be used as
licenses?
short-term rentals. So that's completely handled by our building department. We do have rental inspections, and they oversee that. That being said, I know there's some bill going through the state right now that
Okay,
would
legislator.
kind of get rid of a lot of our power, but I don't know it very well. So I don't have a great answer for that right now, but that's absolutely something that we're thinking of.
Oh, because I was going to ask about, so like with the rental unit on site too, I would be curious if that would change the taxing structure of the property as well. Because you're charged a higher tax rate if it's a rental than if you own it. And I'm curious if that would change then the taxing structure if you're now renting. I mean, you could look at it in a way of saying you're renting a room, which doesn't change. I mean, the building department doesn't check on it if you're renting a room to a friend, but if it's an accessory dwelling unit and it's a separate unit in and of itself, then is it considered now a rental property?
It's based
I
on
think they
whether
would-
it's the owner's principal residence.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like if you moved out and rented both of them, yeah,
okay.
it's still your principal residence and you own it.
But if there were two different
Like
single-family
gas.
units, that would definitely change the
But
taxes.
but still, if it was ownership, then you'd be doing a lot.
So if that was your primary address, if one of them was a primary
Either
address,
condo
This is
or-
probably why it is limited, it's got to be limited to the one.
yeah.
If you wanted to build a bungalow court on St. Louis, you either have to condo it or you do a lot split, and that would change your PRE status for each unit.
I wonder where in our ordinance that says.
Talk to me about lot splits all day long.
It might
Is there a maximum, I apologize, is there a maximum number of rental, not talking about short-term, but just rental licenses that the city issues?
Like in a given block, like we have for our short-term rentals? I don't believe we do.
It's like, at all?
No.
No, I
Not that
can't.
I'm aware of.
70% of our city could be rentals. It wouldn't matter.
Can we actually just, I also just want to say for like the record, so what I was saying before about putting the multiple single family, like that can't, there has to be something in our ordinance that doesn't allow for that, or it's like a tax structure that's why we have to split the lot, so I just want to
Yeah.
like say that for the.
Yeah.
Well, I would assume that it would be treated like a duplex or a two-family house, you know. I know a number of people who have two-family homes where they rent the upstairs, and so they just report a portion of their home as non-homestead. Yeah. I would assume this would be treated the same way.
Question for the county assessor.
Well, I think that's got to be reported by our inspection, because, you know, if our inspectors are identifying houses that are rentals, then that information is reported then to the county, is it not?
I would assume so. I mean, we do have a rental inspection program, which is extremely robust.
I've gone
as
through
far
it
as I can tell.
personally. They didn't have a second home that would change his tax structure, so I rented my house, but it was the only home that I owned.
But that's really designed to address safety concerns and not so much around, are you being taxed?
Right.
appropriately?
That's true.
That's not the city's interest.
Well, it
My home
is.
interest.
It is, because we need that money.
Right.
I think part of the application does have you, self-subscribe, like if you've own another building or that sort of thing. Anyways, any other comments on this topic? Did you have anything else for us on administrative items? No?
If you weren't aware, the Facilities Task Force did present their findings at council last Monday. They have a really great report that's available online. I would recommend that you check it out. It's a pretty great vision for the future, but we still have a lot of studying and work to do.
Thank you. Anything else? We do have, we'll most likely be coming to, we'll be receiving the application, I don't know, I can't talk right now, sorry guys. For next month, do we know when our next planning commission meeting will be, or?
Yes, November 2nd.
Okay, thank you. All right, any commission items this evening?
Through the chair, you said the next meeting is going to be November 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, so we just finished the CIP process today. So I would expect that that is probably going to come to Planning Commission on the 2nd. And if that happens, then it would come to the council probably on the last meeting in November.
Does it align with your task force report?
I'm sorry, does it align with?
Your task force report?
Yes,
Cool.
yeah,
I'm reading the task force report.
okay.
She'll verify that claim.
Yeah, we now have a section just dealing with facilities. And so that has been edited based on the recommendations of the task force.
Any other commission items? Have we had a BZA meeting lately?
No. I don't know how I'm gonna get to that one.
Open position.
No. We have 9 members. All right, if there is nothing else, we will adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:24. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.